Yo, what it do, y'all? Welcome to Fandom FM, where we get into all the different genres within the world of music and music production and audio. I'm your host, Will. Make sure you're jumping below the video and clicking like, subscribe, and all that other jazz. We are trying to build our community slowly, surely, from the ground up, and this is just the very beginning, so thank you for tuning in. And today, it's about time we finally get into it after I've had a chance to listen to the album a few times and kind of get into some of the other projects that he dropped as well. Of course, you see it from the thumbnail. We're getting into Drake's Iceman today. So with no further ado, let's get right into it right now. So, we are back coming at y'all with Iceman, Drake's latest major release. Now, it's no secret, he also did release two other albums, companion pieces, if you will, to this main course that is Iceman, if you want to look at it that way, with the Maid of Honor album and Habibti, I believe if I pronounced that correctly, which is like an Arabic word. And he released those two simultaneously on streaming and all the different platforms and everything like that. And of course, a lot of the discussion around that whole element of it is him trying to get out of his contract with UMG. Because for those of you that have been living under a huge Patrick-sized rock, he has been at war with his record label, not with Kendrick Lamar actually, but suing his record label for defamation in regards to the diss track against him. The big bop, the da-da-da-da. Not Like Us from Kendrick Lamar after the whole beef in 2024, and all the rest is history. So after him going to war with UMG, he is on the hunt to go independent apparently and be a whole new version of Drake now and go and do his own thing and go against the man. Whether I believe in that or not, stay tuned and you'll find out. But we're not going to be doing a whole review of those two albums. I will get into it later in this review, a real brief recap of those as we close out this. I really just want to get into Iceman, where I come in at as a Drake fan or not so much of a Drake fan or whatever, and just my whole entire background with him as an artist. Now, for those of you that don't know, I am 31 years old, so I was born in 94. I grew up listening to the entire blog era of hip-hop. That was the era of hip-hop that made me truly fall in love with the culture and want to be a part of it. And that was around 2008, 2009, 2010. Some people draw it back to 2007. So whatever you want to say, but around the late 2000s into the early 2010s, I was one of those young kids that was becoming a fan of all these different artists, whether you're talking about Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Drake, who we're talking about obviously here, Kid Cudi, Mac Miller, the list goes on, right? But we're talking about Drake here. And around 2009, 2010, or I should say actually 2010, I heard, his early stuff with Take Care and things like that. And I really loved that project. So Far Gone. I mean, not Take Care. I'm sorry. I got it whole mixed up. So with his earlier projects of So Far Gone and things like that, and then getting into Thank Me Later, and then getting into Take Care, those projects were ones that I actually liked from Drake. Not that I was ever a huge, Drake stan. Drake's never been one of my personal favorite rappers in the game or anything like that, but you can't deny the man's influence in the world of hip-hop and him being solidified as one of those big three throughout that entire era up until 2024, 2025, depending on where you stand as a hip-hop fan today. And Drake's still moving numbers now, and his accolades and success in that regard and him being able to be a certified hit maker, I can never take that away from the man. That is all facts, big facts. But when it comes to him as just an MC, when it comes to his overall skill set in terms of rapping, putting raps together, there's been a lot of speculation and some confirmed things of him having, ghostwriters and things like that, reference tracks, all this and all this, that, and the third. But going into it as just taking the music on face value, Drake has always been one of the better rappers in the game, and him bringing in a lot of that melodic, singing rap and all that stuff that a lot of the OGs and a lot of the older heads do not fuck with, and myself included, isn't necessarily my favorite part of hip-hop today in the modern era. Being able to make things a little more melodic has made a huge impact, and I think has benefited some artists into really being able to create some amazing pieces of art, you know what I'm saying, over the last 10, 15 years that I've been really paying attention to music in that regard, you know what I mean, in the second half of my life from being, in that time. But overall, man, Drake is a good rapper. He's a very solid artist. Obviously, he's a very good artist. One of the most popular artists of this modern times, you know what I mean? So can't take that away from the guy, but I have definitely been feeling like over the past 5 to 10 years, Drake has been on a significant slump overall, man. I haven't been liking all this newer stuff he's been doing, man. Really, like pre-battle with Kendrick and everything like that. I wasn't really fucking with a lot of Drake's music. I think he's been on a steady decline ever since Views 10 years ago. So I've never really been a part of the thing thinking that he's been one of the illest. He's just been on such a mainstream like success and on such a tear in that regard. I can't really take it away from him, but I think the quality of his albums and music and output overall has gone down. His overall hunger and his overall enthusiasm for the way that he raps and puts his music together has definitely gone down, and some of that is definitely on display on this album. Not as bad as the previous stuff though, because that's where I want to transition into getting into Iceman primarily here in this review. And for me, in my personal opinion, just giving it like one statement to kind of sum it up, I think this is a very solid album from Drake, and honestly, the best album from Drake in 10 years. I'm definitely going to go out on a limb, and I'm definitely going to put that out here right here in this review. This is Drake's best album in 10 years, and I stand by that 10 toes down. Now, do I revisit a lot of Drake's albums all the time? No, I do not. But from being around when they drop, from being around and listening to those when they drop, and hearing certain songs and being a fan of certain songs, and never really going back and listening to the albums front to back all the time, but hearing Drake's music around, actually hearing his collaborations and things he was doing around that era, this is definitely hearkening back to that in terms of his overall rapping on this, because on this album, Drake is rapping his ass off. I cannot front in that regard. Now, I do think there's definitely some hypocrisy and some nonsense going on when it comes to the lyrics, which is where we're getting into the negatives and maybe some of the, kind of mixed bag elements of the album. But in these positives right here, I definitely think Drake was rapping his ass off. And I'm going to stick with the positives going in this, starting off here, because there is some things to really enjoy and appreciate about this album. Now, when it comes to the production, I do think it's a little bit one note and a little bit more down tempo, especially compared to a lot of Drake's other releases. And I think overall, a lot of people just wanted him to come with the summer anthem, come with the bangers. Now, I would definitely not mind him having some more of that stuff on here. I think that would have helped break it up and make it more dynamic. But for what is here, the production is well done. I cannot knock that. There are some really dope soul samples, some really cool beat switches going on. I do think there's a little bit too many beat switches, but some of the beat switches really fucking hit on this. So I can't take that away from him whatsoever. I definitely think some of that stuff is really good. The features on here don't necessarily steal the show, but I think the features all do their thing and are solid additions to the album. It's not a very feature-heavy album at all. Features on here, as I expected on Run to Atlanta. And, he had, was it Central C, I think, on that one song. I always forget the name to it. I'll have to check the track list again or throw it in the edit. I really do keep forgetting the name of that damn song, even though it was a solid little track that actually leaked out earlier last summer, I think, when he was doing that whole gigabyte leak or whatever, because he'd been releasing like 40-some songs before he released these 40-some songs, even though he's been away for a minute, but I digress. So for this, and then, so like I said, solid production, really solid features on this album. And so when the overall thematics of where Iceman kind of comes into play here and some of the subject matter that he is talking about, when it comes to some more serious and actual introspective things, I definitely really enjoy that. Like, especially when it comes to like the opening track on Make Them Cry, you know what I mean? Like, there was actually a lot of really cool, interesting details and getting some insight into Drake as a person and what he's dealing with and what he's been going through and what he's dealing with his family members, like his father having cancer and going through that battle and things like that. Those are really true things that a lot of us can just actually relate to on a personal level. So that's the stuff from Drake that I was really missing the last several years. That is really nice to see on this album. And these were the things I was really looking forward to as a fan of hip hop, hearing a rapper get into what's really going on in his life, where he's really at mentally and where he really sees himself in the game and what he has to offer and what he really wants to talk about and having some substance. That is definitely present on tracks like that. And I really appreciate that about this album, Iceman, that he actually gets into some real stuff that is somewhat relatable when he's not doing the hypocrisy and the shooting and the braggadocious tough guy stuff that doesn't necessarily play as well anymore post-battle when it comes to Drake, at least for me, when lyrics and what you really say matters in the world of your music, But overall, really good stuff that he is getting into on several tracks on here, and I really do appreciate Drake giving us an insight into where he is at in these times, you know what I mean, and approaching 40, and the whole thing about aging and where does that really leave him musically and in him where he's at in the game today. I think those are a lot of really interesting things I really look forward to seeing Drake explore more as his career goes on, because I do think his career will go on, but I do hope it does go more in a direction of him doubling down and really getting more into those things and aging up his music a little bit to match where he's at, and just getting into some more things that I think just grown men and women out there really want to hear you talk about, as opposed to a lot of that early 20s college age stuff that you can still tap into, but I think this is really should be, I think, more of the evolution and kind of focus of his career going forward, and make some catchy stuff where you could talk about something real, bro. Come on. You can do it, Drake. I believe in you. But yeah, man. So overall in that regard, yeah. And then just highlighting the tracks that I thoroughly enjoyed on the album, because it's only about close to half the album that I really thoroughly enjoyed. And the tracks that I'm going to list off here, Make Them Cry, like I mentioned before, great opening track. Drake getting into that timestamp type of pocket and really just letting us know what's been going on with him. I really dig that. Really dope production. And the beat switches, while there's like 3 of them, do work on this track really, really well. So I really dug that. Dust, really hard chorus and everything like that. He's shooting at Kendrick on that one straight up, and like I said, a little bit too much of the hypocrisy going on there, but in terms of a song, raps, a hook, how it's put together, how catchy it is and everything like that, and the execution, Drake killed it on that. I gotta give it to him. So Dust was another good one. Whisper My Name was another really good track. Make Them Pay, National Treasures, What Did I Miss? That one track with Central C was really solid, and Make Them Remember, I think was the closing track, was really, really solid as well. And then Too Hard for the Radio, I thought it was interesting getting to see him get into like a West Coast type of flow, but I don't think it was necessarily well executed, but I'll mention it in here as kind of a mixed element. And same thing with Run to Atlanta. I don't like the way the beat was really like tinny and didn't really have any like low end and any oomph to it in the beginning of that track. And I wasn't really digging as much what Future and Drake were doing. But once like the second half of that track came in and the fucking beat really dropped, it really came together and it was much more closer to being a banger than what the first part was. So I'll show some love to that track as well. But yeah, man, like National Treasures, Make Them Pay, Make Them Cry, and Dust, and Whisper My Name. Those are some certified hard tracks and some of the best tracks from Drake in years. So I'll definitely give him credit on that as well. Yeah, that's about it for my positives, though, if I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Because that's where I get into this album not being great, but pretty decent to solid. Because this thing is way too damn long. 18 tracks, bro. 18 tracks. This thing is way too goddamn long. That is facts. I don't care what nobody says. If this guy would have trimmed off the 4, 5 to 6 weakest songs on this and gave me 10 to 12 of these songs, because I pretty much named off, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I named 8 to 10 tracks as in a sense of what I really thoroughly enjoyed. So let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I at least listed 2 or 3 others. So damn near half the album to me was really good. Imagine you just took like maybe a few of those other tracks and you cut the rest of them. This would have been Drake's easiest, one of Drake's best albums in his career. Easy, bro. But he has to put all this fucking filler in there, all these fucking mid-tempo, no fucking emotion, singing songs in there where you don't get the dope-ass rapping, where you don't get the real emotion, where you don't get that focused hitmaker Drake, man, where you get a lot of stuff where he's just taking shots at people and just speaking so hypocritically on things and doing this tough guy shit and talking about people being in court snitching when he's literally in court as we speak, appealing a fucking defamation case. It's ridiculous, yo, how you can try to act like people aren't aware of this shit. It's on major news. It was all over the place. Every major hip-hop outlet and even some entertainment news outlets outside of hip-hop were covering this, bro. You're suing Universal Music Group, one of the only existing major labels left in the industry. Come the fuck on. Everyone knows what Universal is, bro. And that's the whole thing to me, where the hypocrisy really comes through in this thing. And that's been the problem with Drake for a while now, but I think that's especially been the problem post-battle, because those are the issues for me of where a lot of my respect from Drake has kind of diminished, where not just the quality of the music has been diminishing, but I think just the way he's been carrying himself post-battle has been ridiculously dumb, bro. You lost. Take it on the fucking chin, man. He keeps acting like he didn't lose. When everyone clearly knows he lost the battle, bro. When everyone clearly knows that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? Is Drake completely fucked and washed? Is he done in the game? Is he dead, as they say? No. Definitely not. But he took a fucking L, bro, and just take the fucking L. And he keeps acting like he didn't. He kept dropping mid-tier ass music. Nokia being the only thing that was a hit on the radar and a blip for a minute. Some Sexy Songs for You did not hit, bro. People want to blame that shit on Party Next Door or whatever the fuck. It wasn't him, bro. Drake's shit just was not hitting the last several times. He hasn't had any of the big charting hits like he usually does. Now, this album's going to do numbers, and I think a lot of these songs are going to chart, and I think some of these are going to become hits. Potentially. I do see that potentiality definitely being there with Drake. I definitely don't count him out completely, you know what I mean? It's like James Cameron type of thing when it comes to Drake a little bit, and the numbers are usually going to be there. He could potentially debut all three of these albums, even though the other two I think are trash. We'll get into it soon. But he could debut at 1, 2, and 3 on the Billboard 200 and be the first artist potentially of any genre ever to do so. That's crazy, bro. So you got to give him props in certain regards, but some of the hypocrisy and some of the tough guy shit that you try to push on this album just doesn't work, man. And it just doesn't hit for me as someone that actually listens to what artists and musicians are saying on their records and in their lyrics. It all matters, man, especially in the world of hip hop where it's all about being the master of ceremonies, when it's all about being your voice is your fucking instrument, where it's all about what you say on the microphone. You know what I'm saying? And that shit means something to me as a person that cares and loves and truly is a part of hip hop culture and wants to see it shine and thrive and people put their all in all into it to really help it keep going. And hip hop used to be the most dominant genre, and now that's within debate. And these are the things that aren't going to help that propel forward. Even though Drake's name is going to do that and he's going to carry numbers, and I'm pretty sure this record's going to go number one, you got to look at it in the sustainability of, is it going to be able to continue in the weeks to come when it comes to record sales? I'm going to be very interested to see that because I don't know if the replayability and some of that excitement is really going to carry throughout the summer and throughout the weeks here the way that I think people think it's going to do, the way that it normally does for an artist like Drake. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. Now, I say I don't know, so I'm not being definitive there, but I don't quite know exactly if this album's really going to hit on that level because for me, it's good, but it's not moving the needle in that regard. It is not this super banger album. You know what I mean? There's moments on here. There's glimpses of the greatness that Drake can bring to things. There is glimpses of greatness in just terms of musical ability and just good raps and just cool, rap music. You know what I mean? But when it comes to that deeper stuff and when you're really paying attention to what he's saying, and there's a lot of things on here that show that Drake is not in a good mental space. And this is a little bit of a cry for help, I feel like, in something that where Drake is really not in a good space mentally overall. You know what I'm saying? And I think he needs to take a step away, get some goddamn help, really assess where he's at, and really try to attack things a little differently and try to look at the legacy of what his career is really going to mean when it's all said and done. You know what I mean? I think these are things that Drake needs to reflect on. And even though he is reflecting a little bit on that in this album, I think he's not fully committed to it because of the ego, because of those other negative aspects of him and in just being at that level, you know what I mean? And just getting too much into your own hype. And I think Drake is becoming a bit of a victim of that and kind of getting in his own way. And that still is a part of this album. It kind of gets in its own way. Drake is so monotone with some of the singing where it really stands out, where his vocals sound very poor on this album when it comes to that element of it, and that was one of Drake's stronger elements. I like Drake with the melodies. I don't like Drake when he acting tough. Like, fucking Kendrick said that shit for a reason, you know what I mean? So for the fact of that's a negative for someone reviewing one of his albums, to me, shows where he's at, man. In a little bit, where a little bit of that diminished state of where he's been at and a little bit of that decline is not completely gone, man. He's still kind of in that zone, but I think he stepped up his rapping a little bit, just seeing where the party died a little bit, where a little bit people are really trying to step up the lyricism and things again, and we're really trying to find ourselves as a hip-hop culture. Who are the next big players up? What's the direction that hip-hop's going to head to in the future? Can it get that big, Billboard 200 dominance? Can it really move the needle on culture like it was doing? Is there a tide? Is there another genre about to take that place? We don't know. And there's a lot of things to where that uncertainty is definitely within the culture itself. And I think Drake only adds to that. And this album only adds to that. So that's the thing for me where, I try to come into this as fair as possible and really assess it for what it is, man. But it's just a very bloated, solid album from an artist to me that should be putting out much better stuff overall at this point in his career. And I think this definitely isn't the record to get Drake back to where he was at, but I think it's a step in the right direction. But he kind of takes a couple steps back and a couple steps forward at the same time for me on this one. So overall, when it comes to our tiers here, the way that we do it is from the bottom is going to be Recycle Bin, absolute trash, right? Then we're going to get into mid. It's listenable, kinda, but it ain't nothing special. I'm not gonna revisit it. It's almost whack, but not quite enough to say it is. Then you got playlist worthy, which are like C to B. They're really good to solid to good albums that I may revisit some of these songs. Some of these may end up on a playlist. You know, they're playlist worthy, but I'm not necessarily gonna be spinning this all the time, as the old heads used to say. You know what I mean? And then you got straight up fire, right? Really good to dope albums that are really good. They're, you know what I'm saying? The replayability is way high. It's a dope album. Maybe not gonna necessarily be an all-timer, but it's a damn good to just great album that you can't really knock. And then the overall highest tier is just that top shelf, top tier, the best of the best, a certified classic almost on release. There's almost nothing negative you can say about the album whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? So in terms of that, I'm gonna be putting Iceman at playlist worthy. Like I said, what did I miss? Make Them Cry, Make Them Pay, Dust. There's some really hard tracks on here. But like I said, there's just so many weird things that are just in this album as just such a mixed bag at the same time. One of the better projects, not necessarily a complete disappointment, I would say, in regards to that. And if you're a Drake fan, you're probably going to dig this album and bump it up a tier or so. But I can't see you with a straight face saying to me, this is a top tier, S tier album. To me, you're kind of bullshitting. Now, a quick overview on, Maid of Honor and Habibti. Absolute trash. Hated those two albums, man. I'm not even going to front on this one, bro. I didn't even get to the end of Habibti, okay? Those albums to me are fucking whack. I don't understand people digging those at all, except for people that are very, passive listeners that don't listen to anything or want anything deeper from rap music. They just play that shit to have in the background to twerk or fucking bump in the whip or whatever the fuck, or bump while they smoke and drink, whatever they do, whatever people want to do. Like, this shit to me was fucking whack. There is no way in hell I am doing a review for it unless you went Patreon status and straight paid me to do it, bro. Ain't no fucking way I'm doing a review for those albums. Those albums are complete trash. I'm looking straight down the barrel saying it. Maid of Honor and Habibti are the worst two albums in Drake's discography. Fucking trash, bro. Never listening to those again. That's where I'm ranking those. But y'all, please jump into the comments and let me know, what do you think about Drake's latest album, Iceman? Was it a disappointment? Did it live up to expectations? Was it way above your expectations and blew you the hell away? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know where you rank this in Drake's overall discography as well. Now, we're going to be switching gears a little bit. I got 2 rock album reviews coming out for y'all real soon here. We're going to be getting into Basement's latest release after years of being out of the game in terms of releasing material. They've been playing hella festivals and shows over the last several years as I've discovered their music and their things from back in the 2010s into now. I'm talking about Basement from the UK, their latest album, Wired. We're going to be reviewing that. And then we got Turnover, who's a band I just got turned on to from my bandmates in Blackout Alley. Make sure you check us out, Blackout Alley Music on IG and all over the place, wherever you listen to music, from Pomona, California, baby. So they turned me on to the band Turnover. I'm going to be reviewing their latest album that drops this next week. So I'll be having that review out for y'all by next weekend, around the time that album drops, within the first few days it's out there. So make sure you stay tuned between now and the beginning of June. We're going to be having those 2 album reviews for y'all, and make sure you check out the other ones we dropped on the channel so far. Just a couple right now: Baby Keem's Casino, and we got Isaiah Rashad's latest release, It's Been Awful. He's been on a 5-year hiatus, just was Baby Keem, and we just got into the scene with our album review. So what a better time than to get into 2 of the greatest up-and-coming artists and some of the best established artists in the game right now. So make sure you check out all those dope reviews we got for you guys, and we got some really cool stuff around the corner for y'all in June.